Hey everybody, welcome back to another Nature's Always Right episode. Today I'm joined again by Kaye, the late bloomer here on YouTube, and we're going to take a full tour of her garden. She's got quite a cool garden, a bunch of different areas to check out, a bunch of little techniques I want to ask her more about and how she's using them. And so go check out her channel as well and subscribe. Me and Kaye actually moved to Tennessee and found our homesteads right around the same sort of time.
A little bit before me, but
yeah, so around
circumstances.
2.5 years approximately, we've both been here and we've been building our properties out. So what you're seeing here is about 2.5 years. So keep that in mind that this is possible and you can get a lot done in a short amount of time with good planning.
So I followed the lead of what little the previous owners had here.
Okay.
An older couple lived here before them. They were only here for a year and they had 5 small raised beds that were not level. They were sloped with the hill, and I felt when I was working on them I was going to roll down the hill. And so I started with that because they had some kale and some things, because I got here December 1st.
Okay.
And so there was like some kale growing and a few strawberries. So I followed that lead and I built from there. And in March or April, I found a good person to come and help me who had tools, knew carpentry. And so I expanded from 5 raised beds to 8. They were originally 8 by 8, which is really too wide. I mean, 6 by 8 is too wide.
Right.
I don't recommend that, but that was the compromise I made. We went from 8 square feet to 6 by 8s. So I lost 2 feet on each side, but I gained 2 beds. And if I really stretch, I can get across. Now, because they're on a hillside, you know, on one side they come up to my shin, and on the other side they come all the way up to my hip. So it's a pretty steep drop. I wish they were all this height.
Yes.
Because as you get older, you just don't want to be down on your knees that much.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
knees wear out, so do hips.
Right. Yeah, so that's a big tip. Yeah, there's a bunch of there's garden beds that you can buy now too. Those metal ones they're expensive, but you can get them up to your height. They even people in wheelchairs can use them. I mean, there's a lot of great options for gardening at any ability level.
The metal ones, though, you're going to have to put on a flat surface. You're not going to be able to, you know, you got to use wood if you're going to build. Well, you could do a concrete block if you wanted to, but you've got to build them to the hillside if you want them level. And they really need to be level. Previous owners also had, I believe they had 8 blueberry bushes, and I've added to that, had a great harvest last year. So I had a structure that went over it and it got mangled in the snow, and so all that came down, and I realized you only need to cover blueberries right when the fruit is starting to get ripe for the birds, the squirrels. It's either tulle, voile, or nylon netting if you go into a fabric store, or you can order it online. Even as the season goes and the sun changes from setting here to setting all the way down there, this area here is a really great place to get the most sun hours. And so this particular person who worked for me was good at leveling, and I had a man come in and bring me topsoil. We used logs from dead trees that I had cut to build a support. The idea was to use some of my beautiful rock here to make some rock terraces. That hasn't happened. So I still just have the logs there.
But that worked really well, looks like.
Yeah, and then I did, I grew tomatoes on a string in these 2 terraces. I had shade cloth across the top. So I saw this idea on another channel, which I cite in my video, and I grew 45 tomatoes on each terrace, so about 90 plants.
Nice.
I had some hibiscus on the outside.
What percentage shade cloth did you use?
I wanted to say 35, I could be wrong.
Yeah,
30% like that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I found that I grew tomatoes, we'll talk about this in a second, my big garden, which I added last year, I grew tomatoes on that fence row there. No shade at all, and they did better than anything ever did up here.
Interesting, because that gets the most sun down there.
Yeah,
right?
And that gets even more sun down there.
And tomatoes are one of the most sun-loving plants around.
So I've got garlic growing here.
Nice.
And I see that I have another, this has been very hard to get rid of,
the
fire ants.
I know, they stink.
They grow right here, and that was completely gone like a week or 2 ago, and they just exploded. Under the covers, I don't really need frost blanket now, but I do have them under there because I just planted some tender cool season vegetables, some brassicas, and I didn't want them to get dug up.
Right.
I went ahead and put up shade cloth yesterday because it's going to be 73 today, and in the afternoon that can really fry little tender plants.
And you've got cool season crops in there.
That's all, yeah, and potatoes.
And potatoes.
Down here, I've got onions over here. The jury's still out on my onions. I got a lot of weeds. These are all native, well, not necessarily native, but they're all weeds. But some of them bloom, and so I haven't taken them out.
Show me how you leveled, how were these leveled?
Well, he had a leveler.
What did he put underneath it to support?
He didn't.
So it's just on dirt. He just brought up dirt.
That's why it's sunk.
That's what I did on mine.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had some movement.
Sinking.
I thought about doing a bunch of bricks or some stone, but then that got expensive. So I was like, we'll see what happens. And
I know. I really regret we didn't spend more time on the foundation of these because I had some wood that was here previously, which we repurposed, and I also bought treated wood. But every one of the top layers from here to here is cedar on everything.
Nice.
And look at, they're all perfect, and the rest of them are falling apart.
Okay, this is great.
In 2 years.
So is that pine on the bottom or something?
Yeah, treated.
Yeah, so look at that, guys. Treated pine with our man-made chemicals versus God's made cedar.
But look down here.
Look at that. Cedar's the best wood, guys. Cedar and redwood.
This one's in the worst shape. We wanted to reuse all the pieces from before and all of that. Well, that's a mistake. You really need to have a level foundation to work on because now this is still perfect because this is cedar and these are all falling apart. And also when you do put a joint in here, you have to really support it well, otherwise it'll bulge out.
Another board on the inside to help.
Something. Compare that one to this one.
And that's all cedar.
This one is all cedar.
Yep.
And so even though it's pieced together here, it is a little bit of a bulge there. But look at the corner here compared to the corner over there.
Yeah. Wow. What a difference.
Yeah. So it's worth it.
It's worth the money for the cedar. Is what we just saw.
Yeah, exactly.
So spend the extra money.
I wish I had just done that because see, you can see how that that's not level anymore. That's sagging at least 3 to 4 inches on that corner, where this one is still level. This is asparagus, so of course if you're growing asparagus, this is not for short attention span people. You have to go first year and second year, you let the skinny ones grow up. This is going to be all ferned out. You can sort of see here how it will be. And I've got a tiny one coming up here. I've even got more crowns to plant. I'm gonna analyze where I've got crowns coming up, and in the empty spaces I'm gonna put more crowns, and hopefully I'll get more spears. I've still got them coming up. They start coming up in February, late February, March, and a hard freeze though will turn them into mush.
That happened to me.
Yeah.
The last little freeze we got, it got mushy, but then they kept sending more up, thankfully.
Now this is a purple asparagus, but of course when you cook it, it's green.
So same with green beans.
Same with green beans.
Okay.
So this was an orchard that was here. They had 2 peaches and 2 apple trees here.
Nice.
It's very hard to grow apple trees in Tennessee because of the cedar. It makes this big ball of orange, and it's like orange dust, and it's rust. It's a rust.
Okay.
And it affects the apple trees. It's very hard to grow apples here because of that. You've got to spray them, and they weren't sprayed this year. So this was another project that the first man did. Now the previous owners had some of these vines. I added a couple more. This is blackberry and raspberry.
Nice.
And this needs to be, I really like the arbor, but all the vines need to be cleaned up. I didn't prune them. People go, oh, you should do no-till. Well, I do. I do no-till here. There's no-till here. No-till on the blueberries, no-till on the raised beds. There's no-till in the orchards.
Nice.
No-till in the vineyard, but I do till the crop garden, and we'll talk about that. So as the development of the garden went along, we developed the flower garden. I wanted a garden for flowers for the beneficial insects. So this actually looks very small from a distance, but it's actually 20 by 30. Which It's almost the size of my front yard in California. And
funny.
I grew sunflowers, zinnias, cosmos, lavender, butterfly bush, and coneflower. There's 2 coneflowers coming back. They're perennial.
Oh, I love echinacea.
I got coral bells right here. That's going to come back. And believe it or not, this is cilantro. I just threw some seeds out here.
Wow.
And this is wild onion, of course.
Yes,
so
that's everywhere.
The only thing I've done so far is I've just tilled around the edge and I sprinkled marigold seeds.
Oh,
now
cool.
nothing's going to happen till it rains, of course. Now this is my vineyard and it is leafing out, some of them. Some of them may not have made it. I'm not sure yet. They look better on this side than they do on this side.
What types of grapes?
These are table grapes, and I have white and red.
Nice.
I don't remember exactly the variety.
Yeah.
But I told myself, if they come back and they do well, then I'll put a fence around it.
Yeah.
A deer fence around it. And then still you have to cover up all the grapes, or the squirrels or the birds will get them. Before you're ready, just right before you're ready to pick them, they'll get them.
Yeah,
So,
right when they don't taste good.
but there are covers. There's like these silk covers. That's what I did last year. I put a silk cover over the whole thing, and I got all my grapes. But the problem is, if you put a fence around it and you put a silk over the top, it's hard to get in there.
Yeah.
And then
it grows.
If they're not perfectly
pruned
attached,
and
to the wires, and they fall on the ground, then they'll rot and you'll miss it.
Right.
So it just takes, you got to be vigilant and observant. This is the last thing that I've done. This was my meadow last year. And all I did was ask the mowers not to mow this area because I noticed that was wild yarrow growing.
Oh, nice.
But what happened at the end of the season is it just looks like dead grass. And so all winter it's just dead grass. The birds aren't doing anything, nothing's blooming. And so I decided to enhance it by having the mower mow it tight to the ground, and then it rained, and then I sprinkled. I used a seed spreader, and I spread wildflower seed, and then I raked it in and watered it, and then I spread another half the bag at a big bag of seed.
Yeah.
And
Same day?
And it was the same day.
Okay.
And then swept the grass up with my behind my four-wheeler, the grass sweeper, and I dumped it all up there. And so then that day, the day the rains were coming, I came and I put down the seed, and then I took the grass and I just spread it all around. And I watered it because wind was blowing. You got to be ready to water it because it'll blow off.
Yeah.
And I blowed it, and then we had the storm, and it really watered it in. And so I'm really anxious to see, if you lift this up, you'll see that underneath it's still wet and green.
Oh yeah. Really good fertilizer, that's for sure.
Yes, very good fertilizer. And you see there's water there. It's wet. So hopefully those seeds are going to germinate in this heat, and I'll see things coming up.
Fun.
And because I didn't thoroughly take away everything growing there, you know, I mean, I only lightly tilled it myself, a couple passes. So some of this stuff in the middle is native. This is wild geranium. That was already growing here. And I also had some wild yarrow. Isn't it beautiful?
I love yarrow.
It's like little fern.
Pollinators love it too. All the beneficials.
Yeah, the native yarrow is white. See, the next thing I did was I bought a huge silage tarp, and and it was 50 by 100.
Yes.
So I covered this entire area, and I left it on for 4 months. And then my neighbor turned it over with his tractor, and then he disked it, and then he ran his side-by-side with a chain to break it up, and then the entire thing was tilled by me. By me. Big
Nice.
old yard max. I had started planting my corn in here, and I planted corn twice, and the crows ate all the corn seed.
Wow.
And they would come before the sun, just at dawn, and I would take pictures, and they would be on the top of the mounds. I planted them in a mound. So here's my recommendation. If you're planting corn seed, and you know you got crows around, cover it with frost blanket. or you know, just I mean, you've got that frost blanket laying around and just put rocks and just secure it on the ground. Make sure you water it, and that way they can't get to this. They don't know where the seeds are, so the third time I used the frost blanket and I got corn.
Nice.
But right about that time, I found a helper at the co-op. You know, just go into the co-op. If you're an older lady and you need help, you know, you might just go into the co-op, start asking questions, and you never know. An able-bodied person might come in and say, sure, I can help you out on Saturdays, or maybe I can give you a day a week or something like that. And that's what happened to me. And that's how I got a garden last year, was this Randy. He was fantastic. And
awesome.
he was a farmer. See,
Nice.
Don't go into Lowe's and
Yeah.
go into the co-op where farmers walk in, you know, and they probably grew up farming and they know something about it.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
a good tip.
This is electric. Randy put this whole thing up. We did a part of it. My neighbor and I did a part of it, and then he redid it and expanded it all around. The only thing I've got, all that you see growing here, the yellow is black mustard, and all of this is winter rye.
Oh, cool.
And everything else is weeds. Well, no, the clover I planted.
Clover.
I planted the clover. And the only thing that's planted, they look like they need water, are my peas.
Nice.
So I really should water that before we
Really
go over
good.
to
Okay.
Daryl's.
Yes.
So, and then over here I've got
oh, I didn't even notice that.
elderberries
Oh, cool.
and aronia berries. This is my berry. I really need to get a fence around it.
Right.
The deer actually eat the bushes,
Really?
not just the.
My sheep will eat the elderberry bushes.
Oh yeah.
I notice.
Yeah. So I really need to. This is like prime real estate for a deer right now. I need to get a fence all the way around this. But I've got 3 aronia bushes on my kitchen table that need to be planted. Now this, when I put this in, I planted, I think there were 7 trees here. 2 plum, 2 pear, and 3 cherry. Nice. All the cherries have died. 1 plum died.
Cherries, yeah, stone fruit are really difficult here.
Yeah.
I've found out.
Yeah, the Leyland cypress were really susceptible to that Arctic blast that we had. And it was explained to me, it's an evergreen, they're gorgeous privacy, for a privacy tree, you know. Gorgeous, and they grow pretty fast. You gotta give them some fertilizer though. First year they didn't grow at all. I go, what's wrong with those trees? They're going, oh, the soil's bad. And somebody came and said, Kaye, put some fertilizer, just those spikes. I put 2 spikes in each tree and they doubled in size in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
But then we had the Arctic blast. And they're green, evergreen trees, and they hold so much moisture that it freezes and then it goes back. It just crumbles.
Blows apart the cells.
So we don't know if these are going to make it. I had a silage tarp over here, and as soon as the silage tarp came off over here, I put it over here. Because right before that, I had a man come in what's called forest mulching. They have a big skid steer and they have a big device on the front. It looks like a monster. It looks like something from one of those movies, you know, it's like yang, 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 and it just literally takes whole trees down. But the thing is, this particular property, I've talked to the people who built the place, and they mowed this as part of their yard, but the people after them let this whole area go. So it was all scrub. It was Chinese privet, thorn tree. The thorns are that long. It was this terrible Bradford pear, also called calorie pear. I think most everybody regrets planting that because it spawns 1,000 trees. And so it was just brush. You couldn't walk in. It's full of poison ivy. He saw it this morning. Back over beyond those trees, that canopy is just loaded. It's just solid carpet of poison ivy. So I had him take that whole thing down. It was just scrub. And so what happened is this. These grow wild here, and this is called Miami mist. And every spring it gets more and more. And what I'm hoping is it takes over the middle, which is where I had the tarp.
Yeah.
I put the tarp there thinking I wanted to develop a permaculture garden, but I just haven't had the help and the advice. And so now, right now, I just want to plant wildflowers and just keep this wild, but you know, you still have to manage it even if it's wild. So I planted 3 dogwood trees here. They're osier dogwoods. They have a red bark.
Oh, yeah, those aren't the native ones, right? Or the ones that we see all over the place.
No, they're not those.
Yeah.
But they are native in Illinois.
Oh.
And I picked them up in Illinois. They literally go out in the woods and dig them up and sell them.
The bark's pretty.
And the one in the middle died.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had the white eastern pines planted, so there's 2 down here and 1 at the very top. It's going to be like my centerpiece.
Nice.
It's like my crown jewel way up there. Then along this edge where you see these black sandbags, I have 20, but I think probably 5 of them are dead, hazelnuts, which I also got when I went up to Illinois. Okay, so this is my cistern, and it was one of the main reasons I bought this place, because I wanted 2 of my requisites was wood heat and a water source. Now in this particular area, I learned this later, wells are not good because we have a local zinc mine.
Ooh. And
so the groundwater is contaminated, it tastes like sulfur, it's just not good. So when they built the house here in '88, the city water hadn't been put up here yet. And so they built the cistern when they built the house. And so this cistern is 25 feet long and about 8.5 feet wide. And it holds about 10,000 gallons of water.
Wow.
If it doesn't leak. And I've had a lot of issues. And I've got a whole playlist on my channel about my cistern, so if you're interested, you can see all about it. But a cistern is a great way to go if you're on a hill, because like he said, you're capturing all that water running off that hill.
Yeah.
If you have, see, I have a catchment system coming off of this 2-story house. I had been looking out the window, my upstairs window, studying the light. Like I said before, where's your sun? And I've been studying the light here, and this was December when I got here. And so I thought, there's not enough sun here to put in a garden. But then I realized, you know, it could be a summer garden. Because, you know, by 9 in the morning, there's sun, full sun on the whole thing. And until about August, you know, when it gets lower over here, you know, you still have light coming in at an angle, but you don't have that strong sun hour when the light is lower in the sky, when the sun is lower in the sky. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put in a garden here. It's not particularly level. I've been trying to deal with issues of water running off and soil running down and all of that. But I got a nice big bean trellis built the first year. So I grow beans on the bean trellis. I also grew this bean just up the fence last year, and you see it's still all here. I need to take all that off. But what's growing in there right now is the cover crop, which is black mustard. It's going to be great fodder, great mulch when I'm going to come in real soon and weed whack it all down and let it die down, and then I'm going to come and till it in, you know. So that's the plan. The only thing I've got growing in here right now are peas. And so you see, I did get quite a few peas coming up after all. This is a trellis. Daryl gave me the boards. This was my birthday present. He gave me he cut the poles. And so I put it together with a helper, but I don't have the netting yet for them to crawl up.
Yes.
Now that I see that I have plants, I need to get one in there.
So an 8-foot fence.
This was 7.5 foot netting I got, and then I put I wrapped a ½ foot down here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so somebody can't dig.
So ½ foot there, and then rocked it down.
So no deer's ever jumped this.
No.
Okay.
No, it's a little too small. It's a little too weird, and you know
it's near your house.
And that trellis inside is confusing, and near my house. So no, haven't had the deer in there. And this is something I really recommend, is getting solar lights for your garden, because put these all around your garden that way, or just your walkway getting into your house. So number one, so you can see where you're going, and it's really fun to look out at night, especially if you have a big yard, and you just see these little twinkly lights that are the perimeter of your garden spaces. But the big advantage is, if you've got sun, you can bring this in, and if the power goes out, you can put these on your stairs going up. You can put one in every room, and you know, you'll have light for at least till you go to bed. Yeah. You know.
And then put them back out and.
Yeah, put them back out, and you know, that's not something that a lot of preppers talk about, but it's a great idea to have these. you know, just to have extra light in your house.
Light
I mean,
source,
it keeps you from having to burn coal oil or a candle or anything, you know, because the sun has already got it charged up. So I just wanted to quickly go over my compost bin. I bought this, I just ordered this off Amazon. This is made out of, it's not cedar, but it's a wood that doesn't break down as quickly. This was completely full. This was my first one, and I took the slats off and used all of this compost. And then this is number 2 and this is number 3. So I kind of topped this one off, put the boards over it, and I'm just going to let this melt down. And then this one is my working bin right now. But I also wanted to talk about wood chips, you know, especially if you're trying to do no-till and wood chips and all that. You can get listed on Chip Drop. Have you talked about that?
Yeah,
Chip
but
Drop
no, tell them about that, please.
Yeah, you can go onto Chip Drop. I guess it's chipdrop.com. And register. And when I was first here, I got 2 loads of wood chips for free. They do ask for a tip, and which helps them with gas, and I was happy to oblige. Because if you get them from somebody who just comes here, you're going to pay at least $80 for a load. Because by the time they load it up and they drive it here and they dump it, you know, they need to be reimbursed for their time. So, so I have a lot of piles of wood chips, and you don't want to put wood chips right up next to your house because of termites. So that's just a tip to remember. And so it's been hard for me to exactly figure out where I want all these wood chips. And so we've moved the cedar chips to the blueberry patch, and then, you know, gradually these piles are working their way down. But you know, it's a work in progress. A garden is never finished, and it's never perfect, and it's never done. You know, it's a constant process.